Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, what condition my condition was in.
Alon!
Derek,
How's the internet holding up tonight, my friend?
I think it's better. I think I fixed it. I diagnosed it. I hardwired everything. I called Cox. I was on the phone with them for about 3 hours, and I think everything's good to go.
Fantastic. Let's get this thing going because, let's be honest, last show was a shit show, but I held it down. Just your opinion, man. Alon Desai, Derek Papa, this new iteration of Just Your Opinion, man. We're coming to you on a Wednesday night, and things are going down in the fuckery, as we call it, NFL free agency. And a lot of smoke going on right now with Maxx Crosby and his future with the Las Vegas Raiders. It's leaning in the direction of a trade. Could A.J. Brown be traded as well? We'll discuss that tonight. Some other moves that went down this week. Kyler Murray going to be released. We kind of knew that. Stephon Diggs released as well. Could that be the door opening for a potential Patriots trade for A.J. Brown? We'll see about that. But, Alon, what's going on, dude? And I feel like we really didn't get you on last time. I mean, it was scattered and kind of weird, obviously, but I'm glad we got a good connection going, and I'm glad to have you on. Just your opinion, man, now. Just your opinion, man, going forward.
Oh, I love it. I'm glad to be here, of course, Derek. Always like subbing in for Steven, and if he's going to be gone for a little while, I don't mind taking over the chair, but been doing some UNLV baseball, some softball, working for them again this weekend, and just a lot of local sports hits on Channel 8 here, CBS in Las Vegas. So very plugged into the Vegas scene, but paying attention to that Bay Area sports scene too. And we actually got the A's coming to town this weekend. So that'll be fun for, spring training on the 7th and the 8th against, what are they? The Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Are they still LAA?
I believe so. I haven't kept up with what they've been called lately, but
they got to change that one day back to they got to go back to the Golden State Warriors route, I think, back to California Angels. That was
California Angels is not bad. That's like the when I think of like that Angels era, I think of like Naked Gun with Reggie Jackson. I must kill the Queen. But yeah, I mean, well, no one cares about Angels baseball except for Tom Tolbert, my guy.
I care about Leslie Nielsen singing the national anthem.
You mean Enrico Palazzo?
Oh, yeah. Enrico Palazzo, who gets tied up in the clubhouse, and then he goes out and sings it.
Yeah, I mean, that's my favorite rendition of the national anthem, well, next to Roseanne Barr, of course. But, Alon, last time we got you on, your connection was going out, so I want to get your thoughts on everything going on with Maxx Crosby. We'll get to the latest stuff, but I was asking you when John Spytek addressed things at the Combine, he's very confident that Maxx Crosby will return. And I said, what is he supposed to say at this point? He's a GM. You can't tip your hand like that. So I want to get your thoughts on that, along with this whole narrative out there right now that some of the media members have that they're not going to get 2 first-round picks for Maxx Crosby.
I've been hearing a lot of that real quick, Derek. Mac Van, 4646, he said Angels in the Outfield was filmed at the Oakland Coliseum. You know what, Mac, yes, I've always thought that, but I've never had it confirmed. So thank you for confirming that. And it's the old Oakland Coliseum before Mount Davis. Alon? I always thought that, but because I was like, oh, that's the Oakland Coliseum, but I never had it confirmed.
Well, I mean, I get it. You have to have Angels in the outfield, but it just seems weird. Like, yeah, you got to shoot the Oakland Coliseum. And that makes sense because Danny Glover is from the Bay Area.
There we go. Oh, man. Danny Glover. Sorry. Anyway.
Too old for this shit.
Too old for this shit. Riggs. Anyway, about Maxx Crosby. Yeah, I don't know. The media is starting to go crazy on, they're not going to get the same kind of deal that the Cowboys did for Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I really do think that teams will trade for. I think he's more valuable than Micah Parsons, number one. Number two,
why do you say that, Alon? Just real quick. Sorry to cut you up, but why do you say that?
his play, every play, his durability. I know he missed some games the last 2 seasons, and I know Micah's not an injury-prone guy either, but Maxx is a guy who I think if just had a smidge of help on the other side, we're talking about north of 15 sacks in a season. And I think his run stuff ability, I mean, how many plays, Derek, does this guy just bust through the line? Think about, what was it, 2 or 3 years ago against the Lions on, what was that, a Monday night, where he just stopped, he stopped whoever it was who got a sweep play in the backfield. And it was an incredible play. That's the kind of play that Maxx Crosby brings to you every single down. So I think he's very valuable. I think the Raiders can get those 2 first rounds and a player for him. Now, all that being said, the problem is who are you going to, so you're going to trade him to LA? Is LA at that point, the Rams I'm talking about, are they at that point where they think they're all in for another Super Bowl run where they're going to give up their first 2-round picks or their 2 first-round picks, excuse me? Like, that's the problem. I think he's valuable. I don't know who is going to trade that much for him, even though I think he's worth that trade.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard the argument against it where a lot of people say that he's older than Micah Parsons. He's had the injuries, so he's not going to warrant that. And you rarely get 2 first-round picks for a guy that's going on his 3rd contract. That's where Khalil Mack, Micah Parsons, those guys were going on their 2nd contracts, and when they're, middle 20s, where, in a year, Maxx Crosby is going to be 30. But I have to say today, I think that you're going to have to cross the Rams off the list as a team that's going to go after Maxx Crosby, because news came out today, big-time trade that a lot of people had, and it makes sense because the Rams need a lot of secondary help. They have a good front 7. I go on and on about their pass rush with Byron Young and Jared Verse, and they got to pay these guys. I thought that maybe if you're going to include a player in a trade, the Rams made a ton of sense with 2 first-round picks plus Byron Young. But with the trade today of Trent McDuffie going from the Kansas City Chiefs to the LA Rams, I'll get you the compensation in a minute here. I think that nixes a Maxx Crosby trade to the LA Rams, which we know in the past, Les Snead has all been about fuck them picks, and they have the mentality now, but they're prioritizing the secondary. And Trent McDuffie is one of the better corners in the league. They always do this. They always trade with the Kansas City Chiefs when it comes to cornerbacks. Years ago, it was Marcus Peters, who terrorized the Raiders for years and then got traded to the LA Rams. Still trying to get the compensation for you real quick. But
it's Derek, I got it right
here.
So the 2026 first-round pick, 2026 fifth-rounder, and then a 2026 sixth-round pick, and a 2027 third-round pick. That's per NFL Network.
Yeah, so the Rams had 2 first-round picks because of their deal with the Atlanta Falcons last year, and because they wanted to get back in the draft to get James Pierce. So the Rams traded their lower pick, number 29, to the Chiefs. So the Rams still hang on to 13 overall, and I got to believe they want to hang on to that one if they want to go from Matthew Stafford to possibly your guy, Ty Simpson. So the fact, is your guy from Alabama, and I want to talk to you about him a little bit here. But because of that, I don't think they're going to trade away both of their first-round picks unless they're just going crazy this year and they see their window closing. So I got to believe that Maxx Crosby will not be an LA Ram. And I know that a lot of 49er fans are like, oh, thank God. And I don't think he's going to the Niners. I think that a lot of Niner content creators out there, a lot of guys are hoping for that. My guy, Brad Graham, who posts constantly about Maxx Crosby. I'll say this. I think I said it last podcast, but I'll say it again. If you think Maxx Crosby is going to the Niners because he posted some song where he says, I landed in the Bay, but I think he's saying vey or whatever he said, I think you're delusional, and I don't think that's happening. I'd also say at this point, I know how you feel, Alon. I think Raider fans that listen to podcasts where Maxx Crosby doesn't say he's going to be traded are delusional too, where it seems like this guy doesn't want to say it. I think that he's, like I said before, he's pulling a Giannis. He's very loyal to Mark Davis, but at this point, he's just tired. And I understand it. I understand that it's been a lot on him. He has a Mamba mentality. As a guy that is a recovering addict, he expects certain things of the organization. And when no one else is on the same level as him, it's going to frustrate him. So a lot has been written in the last few days. And I'll just say this: I do think they should get 2 first-round picks for him.
Yeah.
But the player included, I'm not so sure about that.
That's the kicker, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like there's only a few teams that would be willing to go that far, and it sounds like it's narrowed down to 2 teams in particular. And this would be funny, as really being ironic, the Chicago Bears. And we all know what happened. God, is it 8 years ago already, where Khalil Mack was traded from the Raiders to the Bears, and it would be history repeating itself. The Bears have a lot of needs. They need a new center because Drew Dahlman unexpectedly retired. And they're going to trade away, it sounds like, DJ Moore and Tremaine Edmonds. So could you include both of those players in a trade with the Chicago Bears? I don't know about that. But just the latest when it comes to Maxx Crosby, Albert Breer put out his MMQB article. A lot of details, a lot of stuff about A.J. Brown we'll get to in a little bit here. But he's leaning in the direction that Maxx Crosby will be traded. And everybody that, I listened to and followed, Tom Pelissero said the same thing about a week ago, where it could take 7 to 10 days for a trade. My guy John Middlecoff believes that a Maxx Crosby trade will go down. He's tight with John Spytek. But Albert Breer believes that a Maxx Crosby trade could go down this week. And I think it does have to go down this week, because that's when we hit free agency and the other, pass rushers that are available, whether it's Trey Hendrickson or Khalil Mack. Other teams have to know who's available, and people have to work their cap situation. So if you're going to make a trade of that magnitude, it probably has to happen before the new league year starts or when the legal tampering period starts. So as Albert Breer says in his article, they're not going to trade him away for nothing. It's going to be difficult to get the Khalil Mack package or the Micah Parsons package. And he does not want to advertise that he wants to be traded out of respect for Mark Davis. So that's why I'm saying he's pulling a Giannis where, and it sounds more like, I didn't even know Giannis actually is back playing for the Bucks. He's playing tonight. And funny enough, Jonathan Kuminga doesn't want any of that smoke. Everyone's going on about Jonathan Kuminga balling out for the Hawks, but yet not playing tonight against not a great team, but a challenge. Anyway, I digress from that. Yeah, I think that Maxx Crosby, we're not going to see anything where he's demanded a trade. We're not going to get that alert notification from Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport. But the teams that would be interested, he lists Dallas, Chicago, Baltimore, Buffalo, New England, Philly, and the Rams. And as we just said, I believe that the Rams are out of it after their first-round pick is bye-bye. So in the recent days, it sounds like you want Chicago. That's what Jonathan Jones of CBS is reporting, and a lot of people are kind of going with that right now. Dallas would be a close second, where he's from Dallas. The Cowboys have 2 first-round picks, but they don't have a second-round pick, so it would pretty much gut their draft for this season. But Jerry Jones is not afraid to go above and beyond for a player he likes. So when you hear all this along, where are you at? There's another article in particular I get to with Mike Silver that he was reporting about Maxx Crosby, but where are you at right now with all that news?
I mean, look, I'm reading the same stuff. I'm hearing the same things. And obviously being on the ground here in Las Vegas, I think the one telling thing you mentioned earlier, Derek, Raider fans who haven't heard Maxx Crosby explicitly demand a trade. Yeah, it's a little delusional to think that he's going to stay just because of that.
Right.
And look, what have both sides done? Clint Kubiak came out very diplomatically and said, and John Spytek as well, we'd love for him to be a part of the team. We anticipate him being a part of the team. That is not, we're going to trade him. Maxx Crosby on the other side, what has he done? Oh, I'm here for my teammates. I'm trying to get better, all those kinds of things. Yeah, take the Rams off the table because they have traded a first-round pick for a young all-pro or Pro Bowl cornerback. Dallas, interesting. I'm keeping my eyes on the Patriots, Derek, because if they really think that they're one step away from maybe winning a Super Bowl or maybe 1 or 2 pieces away, that's an interesting team. Baltimore, I don't think so. Chicago, fascinating because of the irony, and maybe they think they're just a piece or 2 pieces away from going all in to win a Super Bowl. But I'm keeping my eyes on the Patriots. All that being said, until something actually goes down, I don't know if they're going to trade him. I just don't. He's under contract.
Yeah.
And they were able to get, let's look back at that contract that he was able to sign, right?
A year ago.
A year ago. And for what? 5 hours, 6 hours, he was the highest paid defensive end in the league. And then
For a weekend until Myles Garrett got his deal because he was demanding a trade himself.
Exactly. So very similar situation to Myles. I just don't know if he's going to get traded. That's the thing. Like, I think he's worth it. I think the Raiders are in a perfect position to trade him. I don't think this is the same situation when they had a team that could compete when they did trade Khalil Mack. Funny story, by the way. You remember, we were both in the office that day at 95.7 The Game, Derek, and I'm walking in with a big smile. And I'm like, oh, man, we got 3 first-round picks and all this stuff. Derek, on the other hand, is like, we're effing selling the team. And I'm there going, no, this is a great day for the Raiders. I thought Derek was going to punch me in the face. But
I was pissed. I was pissed because...
And you were right, because what happened with those picks? They got Josh Jacobs, and that was it. You were totally right about that.
Yeah, and they also drafted Cleveland Farrell and was it Jonathan Abrams? I mean, none of those guys really panned out except for Josh Jacobs. This is a different situation where that was an unnecessary rebuild.
That team was ready to compete. This team is not.
Well, it was unnecessary because John Gruden wanted to mold the team in his liking. And I thought, I mean, that team just 2 years before in 2016 was 12-4. I know they had a bad year in 2017 when they went 6-10, but that was bullshit to me. You didn't need to do that. You didn't need to the whole thing of Gruden saying you can't pay the quarterback and the pass rusher. Every team does that now, and it's a new day and age. It's a new salary cap, and you look at Khalil Mack's contract in comparison to what pass rush are getting today, it's nothing. Yeah. Exactly. So things are different. The Raiders, in my opinion, right now are rebuilding with Fernando Mendoza, and they're just not in a position where they can afford to trade away Khalil Mack. When you have teams, hopefully, that are offering 2 first-round picks, and you can build the team this year with your star quarterback and a pass rusher later on, then you go after that. Or if you want to get offensive line help, because that's a thing that's a position that has a ton of depth in this upcoming draft. So yeah, I mean it's not apples to apples when it comes to Khalil Mack to Maxx Crosby. Khalil Mack was younger in his prime, just 4 years with the Raiders. I thought there was a missed opportunity that Gruden just pulled the plug on it way too early. With Maxx Crosby, are you saying he wouldn't be traded along just because they're not getting the right compensation, or because Maxx wants to stay? Because at this point, it sounds like Maxx wants to go.
I think it's because of compensation. I think he warrants the compensation that they're seeking. Yeah. I just don't know if they're actually going to be able to get that deal. And like I said earlier, I think that player, whoever that player moving forward is that they want in that package, I think that's the hang up.
No, I hear you. And I at this point, I'm with you where he does warrant 2 first-round picks. But does he warrant a player in return? That I'm not so sure about. And I don't know if the Bears are in a position where they can trade away 2 first-round picks. Now, can they trade away multiple players that they're looking to offload right now? Yes. There's DJ Moore. There's Tremaine Edmonds. If you were offered, Alon, let's just say that Ryan Poles is offering a first-round pick, let's say a 4th, and Tremaine Edmonds and DJ Moore, would you take that deal?
I would take it every day of the week.
You would?
Yeah. Because I'm getting multiple starters. I'm getting a first-round pick.
Older starters, though. Older guys.
Older guys, but I know that, and I'm going to have a very young team this year, so maybe some veteran presence does happen. If it does help if I'm the Raiders. But also, I know for a fact that my defense, if I'm the Raiders, has not been good historically since Maxx Crosby's been here. I'm losing production, of course. I'm losing great individual production and some game-changing moments, but the wins haven't been there regardless. So I'm resetting here. This is all contingent on if you actually do, which I think they will, draft Fernando Mendoza. But yeah, if you're trading Maxx Crosby, what this means is you're committed to a 2 to 3 year full roster build out. That's what that means. If you don't trade him, it probably means you're still committed to that same process. It just means that you did not get the compensation that you thought he warranted. And then he might be unhappy in Las Vegas. You might be unhappy you weren't able to unload him, but that's just the way it is. Worst case scenario, he's under contract. You have him for a pretty decent bargain for how good he is. It's hard though. That's what I think he's I still think it's 60-40. I think 60% chance he gets traded, Derek. I think 40% chance he stays, and the 40 is because of the compensation. I think the Raiders are going to stay firm on what they want, and if they don't get it, they'll say, you're under contract, you're going to play for us.
I think that Mark Davis is going to budge on this, though. I think that he has a soft spot for Maxx Crosby, and that was evident a couple years ago where he threatened he would demand a trade if they didn't hire Antonio Pierce. And that was a bad move. But I think that when Maxx Crosby tells you, look, I've been dedicated to this team for a long time, and you guys are starting all over again, and I just can't do it. I want to go play for a ring. I think that Mark Davis is going to cave. Now, is it good business just to trade away a guy because he's unhappy? No. Like, this is the NFL. I'm sorry, but it is what it is. I do believe in the end they're going to get what they want. It's not going to be 2 first-round picks plus a player, but it should be 2 first-round picks. That's why I think Dallas is probably in the best position to go get him. And if any team's going to overpay for a player, we saw it years ago where the Cowboys traded a 4th-round pick for Trey Lance, where most teams are offering a 6th, a 7th, because they knew that the Niners were going to move on from him. I think that Jerry Jones is that crazy. Not that it's crazy, but like if other teams are saying like, no, that's too rich for our blood, Jerry Jones is like, no, I want Maxx. I want Maxx Crosby on my defensive line. So yeah, I think that this does go down. And as far as Raider fans still holding out hope, I don't want to react to every little thing on social media, but Maxx has done a ton of interviews, and he's had every opportunity to say, I want to stay. Now, he doesn't acknowledge the bullshit. He doesn't acknowledge Jay Glazer and all these reports. I don't know what podcast this is, but I saw this.
This is his podcast.
This is his podcast? Okay.
Yep.
He has the opportunity right here to say, I want to come back and play for the Raiders. He chooses not to.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Maxx.
I had a feeling.
I've been seeing things on the internet. So are you a Raider for life, or what's happening?
God. So
Can you talk about this?
She's trying to go viral.
Can
She's trying to get viral. She's trying to go viral.
I know you said you don't do the clip thing.
You do.
I'm kidding.
See?
No, I'm just. Can you talk about it? Can you not talk? No.
You're not kidding. Anyway, I've talked about this too much. I'm gonna just leave it at that. Life is good. I'm blessed. I'm happy.
You're gonna be
Sarah
successful.
Safari's on my
regardless of where you are.
podcast. Life's good.
Life's
With my
good.
best friend. Got my boys with me. I mean,
Yes.
good. Life
Have
is
you
good.
met your new coach?
I have. Yeah.
Okay. Do you like him? Are you
Yeah,
excited?
seems like a great guy. Absolutely.
That's good.
Look at you knowing there's a new coach.
So I don't know. Is that his podcast? I don't know who that woman is that's talking to him, but yeah, I look, he could, maybe he doesn't want to, feed into anything right now, but when you're saying, yeah, I'm blessed, I'm just going to leave it at that. That's all I need to hear. I think he does want to move on. Not only that, again, like I don't know everything that goes on in Raiders social media anymore. Alon, are you familiar with a guy named Obi that covers the Raiders, knows Raider news? I was texting with Aram about him. There's this guy named Obi on Twitter. I guess he lives in Las Vegas. He knows players on the team. He cuts their hair or something like that. And everybody's going with what he said last night. Hearing from a few people that I trust at the Commitment to Excellence dinner last night, Maxx Crosby was basically saying his goodbyes to those in attendance. Looks like Maxx Crosby will be traded. A ton of people were reacting, being like, if Obi's saying this, it must be true. JT the Brick, also, who is a Raider employee, went on the local radio show in Las Vegas saying, I was out that same dinner. I did not hear that. Conflicting reports. Do you know anything about this guy, Alon?
No, I don't know anything about Obi. Sorry about that. But,
No, fair enough.
Yeah. I was at first when you were talking about him, I said, I wonder if this is that guy on Twitter who's actually in the building and tweets stuff out. But no, different guy. But
yeah.
I know JT is a Raiders employee, of course, and he's tight with the team. He knows more than what's going on than he lets on his radio show. But
yeah,
that's the thing. We haven't heard a peep out of either side. By the way, that is the Rush podcast. That's Maxx Crosby's podcast. The
Good
woman
courtesy.
on there, yeah, she's a I don't know, she's like some type of media person or brand influencer of some sort, tight with Maxx. But I don't watch the Rush very often.
Neither do I.
But I did watch that episode, and they actually recorded that in LA, which got a lot of people thinking, maybe he's going to the Rams because he's renting out this place or whatever. But yeah, neither side has really said anything other than we'd like you to be here. That's on the Raiders' part, and on Max's part. I think the most telling part about that whole snippet we just played, Derek, was, she says, "Hey, have you met your new coach? Did you know you have a new coach?" He goes, "Seems like a nice guy." And it's just like,
very bland. It's very bland.
It is. And he was there when Pete Carroll got announced.
In attendance, sitting there. Everyone's talking about this cup of coffee he had with Clint Kubiak, but he was not there at the press conference.
No, he was not there. Ashton Genty was.
Yep.
He was not. And so, Clint Kubiak's like, I talked to him, had a cup of coffee at the bar there in the facility. Beautiful little cafe they have there in the facility, by the way, near the cafeteria. But
yeah,
that's not him at the press conference. He's just in there getting his rehab work done, trying to stay on top of things. So when he says something like, "Oh, seems like a nice guy," it's like you just made the Ben Johnson splash of this past offseason, I would say. And that's what you have to say. It seems like you're very content with being traded. Not that you're outwardly demanding it, but it might be something that you want to have happen.
I think so at this point. And that's when I come to Mike Silver's report today in The Athletic. We know Mike Silver, he joined the podcast a year ago. He says Crosby hasn't made a stink publicly, partly because of his deep affection for the Raiders fan base, but it's clear that he has exhausted all efforts in Vegas. He's had a new boss every 12 seconds, a little much, with one winning season out of 7 to show for it. So there's a lot in this article. I was texting with Ram, our guy, back in the day with Schroeder's. He pops up in the chat from time to time. He was telling me about the article. I was reading through it this morning. And stuff that he's heard too, where Maxx is a hard guy to coach sometimes. He's crazy. He hits quarterbacks in practice where I'm like, no coach would tolerate that shit. But it's just a different expectation he has as a guy that's so regimented and so focused on football. And if everybody else is not on the same level as him, if you don't have the same goals as him of trying to win a championship, then it's just tough. And that's something that's got to change with the Raiders. And I'll go into that a little bit later, where this is just a never-ending cycle of them having a star player and they're not doing enough to keep him happy. I will say about Mike Silver's article, I like Mike Silver. He's a friend of mine. Greg Silver, we work together on KMBR. This article seems a little more critical of the Raiders organization as opposed to having a report on what's going on with Maxx. Now, he does have details here where it sounds like Maxx wants to go, but it's more so Michael being critical of the organization, being like, the Raiders are just a joke and they need to move on from him. And that's not good business. That's not something that they should do just because the perception is that it's always been a laughing stock. I don't think that's why you should do something like that. It's because the player wants to move on and you could gain draft picks in order to move in a better direction. The other thing about this article is that, and I've heard this too, I think other people reported this, Maxx has a problem with Alex Guerrero, who we all know was Tom Brady's personal trainer. It's well documented with the TB12 stuff. Bill Belichick had a huge problem with him. And I guess Alex Guerrero was the catalyst for having Maxx Crosby shut down for the last 2 games of the regular season. Now, I will say this. I understand Maxx Crosby wants to go for a lot of reasons. Him being shut down for the last 2 games because the Raiders were losing and he had a meniscus tear, I'm sorry. This is a little too much to be pissed off about. I know that he's a focused guy. You take football away from him. He's a recovering addict and he has his routine, but this is the business of the NFL. And it's not because they wanted to tank and get the first overall pick. It's because they're looking out for their player and a draft or a trade asset this offseason. So I understand Maxx is upset, but I don't think this is the end-all, be-all of why he should be traded off of the team.
No, I completely agree with you, Derek. I thought it was kind of ridiculous and in a way childish that he was like, oh, I want to be out there every snap. Dude, you have a torn meniscus. It could get way worse than that. Do you really want something detrimental to your career happening in a game that is essentially meaningless. I mean, what does a win do for the Raiders in those last 2 games? All it does is worsen their draft position.
Yeah.
Now I will say this. Maxx Crosby reportedly is not the only person who has a problem with Alex Guerrero. There are multiple reports out there of multiple players being like, this guy's around. There's media insiders who say really he's acting as the director of wellness or something like that. But really what he is, he's the eyes and ears of Tom Brady within the building when Tom's not there. If all that's the case, you can't do anything about it because Tom's a minority owner. All that being said, maybe he shouldn't have such a hands-on approach and as much of a say in the actual operations of the team, number one. Number two, on the other side of it, what does this look like if Maxx plays those last 2 games and does get injured? His trade value goes in the toilet because he's an injured defensive end. You can't have that. And he's on the others. He's going to be, entering the, like you said, 3rd contract of his career. Number 2, he might not be the same player when he comes back. So regardless of whether he gets traded or not, him being shut down towards the end of last season, that was the optimal move for all parties, interested, basically. Whether a team want to trade for him, whether you're the Raiders who are looking to get value back for him, or you want to keep him on the team, it's just the way it's going to go. I get it. He hits quarterbacks. John Gruden has stories about that, right? Where he's talked about that on podcasts where he said, hey, I had to tell this young kid to lay off Derek Carr during training camp. Well, it's just, he's one of those guys. But regardless of wherever he ends up going, if he stays with the Raiders or, like I said, that 60% chance if he goes somewhere else, they better be a team that is ready to win and ready to actually compete for a Super Bowl. And they better have a head coach that is able to rein him in as well, because him moving to another team where right now with the Raiders, he is bigger than the organization. I don't care what anybody says. There's a few players in the league who are as big or bigger than the organization. Maxx Crosby is one of them with the Raiders. When he goes somewhere else, he will not be that anymore. There will be no, hey, I'm doing this if I don't get AP as my coach. Hey, I'm doing this if I don't get this guy as my position coach. That's why Rob Leonard has been able to stick around. So wherever he ends up going, that's why I think the Patriots are kind of a good fit. You better have some hard-ass, good head coach who's going to be able to say, Maxx, we need you. We love you. I want you to do everything you can, but I'm the boss here. You're not. So I think that's one of the dynamics that goes into this as well.
Yeah, I think that the 2 teams that have been reported lately, you would have a hard-ass coach with Ben Johnson. You would have more of a player's coach with Brian Schottenheimer with the Dallas Cowboys. So, and going back to my initial proposal to you as far as a trade with if it's the Chicago Bears and it's a first-round pick plus a 4th, Tremaine Edmonds and DJ Moore, that's a pretty good haul. I don't love the idea of getting 2 players who you're going to move on from either way when the Chicago Bears. You're only getting a first-round pick out of it and a 4th. Once upon a time, that's the deal I would have made, where when the Raiders traded Khalil Mack away, I was like, no players in return? What the hell is this? My tune hasn't changed where, still draft picks are a crapshoot. At the same time, I don't love the idea of getting older players where you could get draft picks that are younger guys can help your team for the long haul. I mean, how long are you going to have DJ Moore and Tremaine Edmonds on your roster? If they're not fits, then it was all a waste. You're moving on from the trade capital that you acquired to move on from Maxx Crosby. I would consider it, but I still would hold out hope if I was John Spike to get two first-round picks. And I believe that's the best team that can offer that is the Dallas Cowboys. And I think that's the team that loves the stars and loves the attraction. And Jerry Jones has already said to the media that they're going big game hunting this offseason. So if I had to say right now, I'm leaning the direction of the Dallas Cowboys, but it does sound like Maxx Crosby, if he had his pick, he would want the Chicago Bears. But the bigger thing at hand is the Raiders need to get out of the business of trading away great talent they have. This has happened way too often. It goes back to Khalil Mack. And I see Mac Van, our guy in the chat here, going back to that time where Khalil Mack was traded and the whole contract negotiations. Max says, I didn't think Mark Davis had the money to put in escrow for the guaranteed money in Khalil Mack's contract. Yeah, and we know all about it. The escrow conversation, I remember Adam Kaplan coming on 95.7 all the time, talking to my dad at Bonte about, can they find a way to get the money in escrow? I hear you. The Raiders were cash poor at the time, and that's why they went to Las Vegas. But you could find a way. Every media member that was covering that whole contract negotiation said the Raiders did not have to do that. They could have found a way. They could have dig deep and found some money somewhere. I don't know all the logistics of that, but they did not need to trade away Khalil Mack. That was a ridiculous trade. I remember Daryl Morey had his analytics award show, and they gave the award to the Raiders for that, but that was laughable. The whole thing was fucking laughable. So I understand it this time around, where hopefully you get another player in return, a guy that can make an impact on your team right now. But I think that in the end, I think the Dallas Cowboys would be a team that could trade away 2 first-round picks to get Maxx Crosby. I think the Chicago Bears would be a little harder, and they got to do some contract negotiations with other players, some roster manipulation. But the bottom line here is you trade away Khalil Mack. You trade away Amari Cooper. You traded away Devontae Adams. These are big-time moves that got the fan base happy. You need to, if you're trading away Maxx Crosby, this needs to be the last of that for a while, because we're all excited. I'll admit that the news of Maxx Crosby going to a new team has got me juiced. I love moving in the offseason, but it sucks for Raiders fans. This does suck because this happens constantly where they get a big name. Going back to Randy Moss 20 years ago, and that was a shitty situation where he was playing with the likes of Kerry Collins and Aaron Brooks and Andrew Walter. They didn't make it enticing for him to stay. Antonio Brown, big-time move. He was a head case in himself, but this organization has to find a way to acquire stars and keep them and not make it where it's intolerable for them to be there and want to run out of town.
No, they do, and it's a trend. I will say to Raider Nation, maybe one of the positives is it's been more defensive. Well, the best players have been defensive players. They're not guys who touch the ball. And yeah, it sucks to trade those guys away. I said on TV a few weeks ago when all this Maxx Crosby, actually towards the end of the season, because we were already talking about it here in Vegas, whether he was going to get eventually traded or not. I said, look, one of the problems with the Raiders is they've traded away a lot of great players, and you don't build a good team by getting rid of great players. So you got to keep them around. So whatever you have to do to keep them around, that's what you have to do. Back to the Khalil Mack thing real quick, not to rehash everything. They could have got the money. Derek, you're totally right. They could have got Bank of America to finance. All kinds of banks would have financed that deal. And, you're in the NFL at the end of the day. It's a multi-billion-dollar league. Every bank in the world would have taken that because it's a good loan to make. So they could have done it. They could have got the cash immediately, put it in escrow. They decided not to do it. Probably John Gruden's idea. Hey, I don't need him. He's not an offensive player. I tend to agree with offensive players are more valuable than defensive players. But this has to be, if you really are trying to make a winner and a consistent winner, this has to be the last time you get rid of a foundational piece in order to do something moving forward. Because if you do it again, look, last season, this stadium, even when Pete Carroll was here, was filled up 80% of the time with away fans. Yeah. You keep a trend of this going, you don't protect Fernando Mendoza, you don't have Ashton Genty have a good season with blockers in front of him, it's going to be like when the Chargers were playing at StubHub or whatever, Home Depot Center down in Carson, California. Right. It's going to be 100% the other fans. You don't want that. So this has to be the last time they do this.
Yeah, that's been a problem. Me and Steven had talked about it where it was different in Oakland. You had more of a home field advantage, and you're there all the time, Alon. You know that the opposing crowds come in, and it's a problem with the Raiders. Who's the most popular team in Las Vegas? The Golden Knights, right?
Oh, it's not even close to the Golden Knights. And I will say this real quick. In 2021, when they were a good team, when they beat Baltimore first game of the season, when they end up going to the playoffs through all the Gruden and Henry Ruggs stuff, that place was 75-25, 80-20 Raider fans every week. When they're not winning, guess what? People are not going to show up. Everybody from out of town is going to buy those tickets because people are going to sell their tickets. It's just the reality. And yeah, the Golden Knights, even on a 3-game losing streak, are still the homebred team here.
And yeah, there's going to be interest early on with Fernando Mendoza. That's going to be, a big deal for Las Vegas and those fans, but they got to find a way to keep these guys. And it's been a problem, and I get it. I'm not a Raider fan as much as I used to be. Not at all, honestly. I know AJ Cruz, but that's a fucking lie, Derek, but I'm not. I'm just not as invested as I used to be. But it does hurt me that this organization still has issues when it comes to having great players and they're just unhappy. They need to change that. Speaking of players that they traded away, or traded for, actually, Devontae Adams back in 2022. You and I were doing the show back then, Alon, where they made that move for Devontae. That was probably the most shocking move of that offseason, where got so many moves. I remember Russell Wilson getting dealt and Carson Wentz, Khalil Mack. And then a couple weeks later, it was Devontae Adams. I remember texting with Aram, too, being like, there's no way in hell the Packers trade him away. And sure enough, later that night, they did for a first and a second. And that type of trade is what the Philadelphia Eagles are looking for right now in A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
And Albert Breer reported on this, too, saying that that's the asking price. Mike Garafolo today on Good Morning Football said they're looking for a Quinnen Williams type package where it's a first and a second, and there's many people on the Patriots beat saying, like, basically the Eagles are trying to make it an unserious offer for A.J. Brown. But I would argue that's kind of on par for what he should go for. Is it a little much? Yes. But A.J. Brown is younger than what Devontae Adams was when they made that deal. Devontae Adams was 30, and the Raiders made him the second highest paid wide receiver in football. At the time, he was the highest paid. I think it was $28 million a year. And then Tyreek Hill got traded to the Miami Dolphins, got a brand new contract. He was making 30. Yep. And it cost a first and a second. Devontae put up better numbers than A.J. Brown did. A.J. Brown the last few seasons has had 7 receiving touchdowns the last 3 years. He's in the double digits when it comes to receptions, barely cracks over 1,000 yards receiving. And that's a product of the offense they run and also A.J. Brown's lack of interest in the team sometimes. And I get it. If they want to move on from him because he's going on social media and bitching about the team when the team wins, but he's not getting his catches, I understand that. But I do kind of get it where this guy, he won't come out and say it. It's the same thing with Maxx Crosby where he's not going to, throw the organization under the bus. A.J. Brown wanted to play with Jalen Hurts, and now I get the feeling that he just can't stand playing with the guy. And that's a big thing that doesn't get discussed a lot with the Eagles, where a lot is done to make Jalen Hurts look good, and he was Super Bowl MVP, but there's a lot of issues right now with that guy where he is not progressing as a quarterback, and he doesn't do the proper work that most franchise quarterbacks take. So I think that A.J. Brown has kind of, this is going to sound funny, taken the higher road where he's not going to throw his quarterback under the bus, but he tries his best to let the media know he's not happy. So if you want to move on from that, totally get that. At the same time, what does this offense look like without A.J. Brown? Is Devontae Smith? I think Devontae Smith's very talented. Is he a wide receiver one? Not in my opinion.
That's what the Eagles think, though. If they're entertaining this, they think he's a wide receiver number one, Derek.
I think also they would have to get another wide receiver. I think that they would probably look to Mike Evans or somebody that's available in free agency, and they probably have the cash to do that once A.J. Brown's off the books. And if you're looking to invest in the youth on this team, then yes, I get trading away A.J. Brown if you're trying to put big money into Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, if you're trying to sign back Jalen Phillips, even if you're trying to get Dallas Goedert back. But this offense is not the same without A.J. Brown, in my opinion. And you got to do something about the quarterback then. I would rather move Jalen Hurts than move A.J. Brown because this guy has not been the same since 2022. I don't know how you feel about him, Alon. You and I haven't talked about him. I know he got benched in the national championship game with Alabama. That's the last time we saw him. But just your whole thoughts on the A.J. Brown situation and really Jalen Hurts' lack of progression as a quarterback in this league.
Regarding A.J. Brown, I understand why he wants to get out of there. The offense was an absolute dumpster fire, especially towards the entire year, from Brazil all the way till the end of the season. Their offense did not function correctly. I think the Eagles, whether it's correct or not, do think Devontae can be that number one guy for them. I also agree with you, though. They're going to need someone else to go with him because he's a very high – in college, he was phenomenal, of course, but he's a very high-end, number two, like B receiver, A- receiver. I don't think he's a 1A. AJ, I think he wants to go play with a quarterback who is either going to get him the ball, so maybe Buffalo, or a system
That'd be sweet.
They'd be amazing, right? And it would be kind of similar to what Buffalo tried to do when they got Amari Cooper, but that was towards the end of Amari's kind of, main days of being a legit number one wide receiver. I think the other team that would be really interesting would be Denver, because that's a system where Sean Payton will figure out ways to get him the ball, and Bo Nix will get him the ball. Regarding Jalen Hurts, he hasn't progressed. And I love that he was able to win the Super Bowl, but he was able to do it because of his leadership, his grit, his toughness, and his abilities to physically do things. But I mean, we saw the limitations. So if it was the playbook, then we can't do anything about that. But I have a hard time believing it was the playbook that let the Eagles down. I have a feeling it was Jalen Hurts' inability to do certain things that you expect out of a professional level quarterback, regardless of all the success he's already had. Super Bowl MVP, leading that team to a championship. At a certain point, he's only getting older. How much longer can you rely on his toughness, his leadership ability, and his, stick-to-itiveness, his grit to win you games when there's certain things that he just doesn't do well, like the intermediate ball. He just doesn't throw intermediate. It's deep, it's dump off, or it's him making something happen. There's no scheduled offense for that team. And part of that is on Jalen Hurts.
It is, and there's not a lot of creativity that goes with it, too. Like, that playoff game against the 49ers pissed me off, where they were just expecting to win that game 19-17 on the strength of their defense, and they just had no creativity whatsoever. Kevin Patullo, he's fired. He went to the Miami Dolphins, but that's where I look at Nick Sirianni, and I'm like, dude, at least Dan Campbell picks up a play sheet. Like, what do you bring to the table? And maybe that's something I don't see, but the CEO type head coach with him, he is an offensive coach. He at a point in time did call offensive plays. Then he realized I'm not any good at it. So then he had Shane Steichen do it. He had Kellen Moore do it. And now they're hoping that Sean Mannion could be that guy. And everybody that talks about him being hired as a first-time offensive coordinator, he wowed the room with his plan for the offense. It's going to feature more motions and more of a Kyle Shanahan scheme, where he learned that from Sean McVay and Kevin O'Connell playing for them and being a quarterback coach with the Green Bay Packers. And really, he got that job because he turned Malik Willis into a good passer this season. Not really him. I think it was more Mike LaFleur. But as far as Mike LaFleur or Matt LaFleur? Matt LaFleur's with Green Bay.
You're talking about LaFleur from the
Packers.
From
Matt
the
LaFleur.
Packers, right? Yeah, Matt.
Yeah.
Matt LaFleur.
I'm going to screw that up now.
You're getting your LaFleurs mixed up.
No, I know. Sometimes I screw it up with the Harbaughs too. But with Sean Mannion, everybody reports that he had a great offensive plan for the Eagles, and that included A.J. Brown. So if you trade him away, it has to be an offer that blows you away. Now, you mentioned the Broncos. That'd be interesting because they do need a true wide receiver out there.
I think that's a match made in heaven. Sorry, Derek, but
no,
I think the Broncos would be perfect for A.J. Brown.
I agree with that. I think the Buffalo Bills would be perfect because that's the number one thing they need this offseason. It's pretty clear that they win that playoff game against the Broncos if Brandon Cooks comes down with that 50-50 ball. So they want more of a big play physical receiver that could go down the field. If it's the New England Patriots, if I am New England, and today they released Stephon Diggs, so maybe they're making room for another wide receiver. They're going to make a move regardless if it is A.J. Brown. But if you lose a Super Bowl in the fashion that you did, where Drake May, again, he was running for his life the most of the time because Will Campbell couldn't hold up a pass or in pass blocking. But as far as the wide receiver explosiveness, they have Kayshon Boutte and Demario Douglas and Matt Collins. They need to upgrade at the wide receiver position. They got Kyle Williams, guy from Washington State. But if I'm the New England Patriots and I made it to the Super Bowl and I'm trying to compete again with the Buffalo Bills, that division, yeah, I do give up a first-round pick and a second to get A.J. Brown. If you think you're that close again, and maybe you think it was fluky you got to the Super Bowl in the first place, then you go out and get an A.J. Brown. Is it going to happen in the end? I wonder if the Patriots are like, that's just way too expensive for A.J. Brown. But they should do that. Honestly, the Buffalo Bills should do that too, but I don't know if they have the cap space to make that work. when you have a quarterback that's on a rookie contract like Drake May is, I think you should go all in if you're the New England Patriots. So I understand why the Eagles shouldn't do it, but if I'm the Patriots, I'm saying yes to that because this is a sure window you have. Once you pay Drake May, it's not going to be the same, and you want to compete. You know that you have the best coach in that division right now, but do you have the best team when Josh Allen had a down year and he was that close to getting to the AFC Championship game? And if they played you in Foxborough, they're probably going to win that game.
No, I don't know. I don't know if New England. This is the thing. I think New England made it to the Super Bowl because, yeah, they had a weak schedule. Whatever. They ended up
solid
being really
defense.
Solid, great defense. Christian Gonzalez, can't say enough good things about the young man out of Oregon from a few years ago. But I don't know if they're a wide receiver away, and they do need wide receiver help, right? They really do. Maybe their best overall target is Hunter Henry. So they do need wide receiver help, and that's a tight end. So I can see that, but I don't know if AJ Brown gets maximized with New England. And I don't know if New England is that. So this is what I was going to ask you, Derek. Do you think New England, let's just back to the Maxx Crosby thing real quick. If you're New England, do you give up picks and whatever the trade package is for Maxx Crosby, or do you give it up for AJ Brown? Which do you think gets you closer to hoisting that Lombardi trophy or making you competitive for years to come where you're getting to AFC championships?
I have more faith in Mike Vrabel getting the best out of that defensive line without Maxx Crosby than I do in getting a great wide receiver. And they don't have a lot of depth there. Stephon Diggs is off the team. And I wonder if that move was made just because Stephon Diggs is kind of a bad guy. It kind of seems that way. Where he, was rejuvenated this season, got a big-time contract, but with all the allegations out there and him, I guess, choking his chef, maybe they just cut him off the team. We know Robert Kraft back in the day did that with Antonio Brown with some allegations. So I don't know if this is related to them making a move or them just wanting to move out of this Stephon Diggs business. But I have more faith in that defensive line with Harold Landry and Milton Williams. If they add a Maxx Crosby, that's big time. But that defense is good to go. I like that defense a lot. Christian Gonzalez is one of the better corners in all of football. He'll get his payday soon. I think this offseason he's eligible. Trent McDuffie will get his deal now that he's with the Rams. They might make him the highest paid corner in football. But, yeah, that defense is pretty good. They need to add some pieces, but you're in desperation of a wide receiver this offseason with Drake May being a solid quarterback and finishing a very close second to Matthew Stafford MVP voting. But if you're asking me, I would definitely go all in and make a splashy move for a wide receiver in AJ Brown over Maxx Crosby if I'm the Patriots. Yeah,
so you're going to add to a weakness because the perceived weakness is much greater on the offensive side for the Patriots than the defense. And I think Mike Vrabel will get the best out of whoever he has out there. Look, he had Kayvon Chason, who was a scrap heap kind of player for the Raiders and a former first-round pick out of LSU, putting up good numbers and playing well on the defensive line. He's been able to build that thing the way he wants in just 1 year. So, yeah, I think Drake May needs to get help. I think I don't know if they specifically got rid of Stephon Diggs in order to go after a guy like A.J. Brown, but I do think Robert Kraft does not want any bad PR on his team. And so that probably is very legitimate, a reason to get rid of a guy like Stephon Diggs. But, yeah, I think A.J. Brown is worth the trade. I think there's a lot of teams out there who would want him. I don't know if I just have a hard time thinking the Patriots are that close to actually winning it all. Like, for instance, we brought up McDuffie, right? I think the Kansas City Chiefs are, it's so funny, but this past season is maybe the best thing that could have ever happened to them. They're going to have a decent first round pick. They're going to be able to get people healthy. They're going to be able to actually turn the team over, but still have Mahomes there and Andy Reid. So I don't know. I don't know where AJ. Look, I stick with the two teams, the Buffalo Bills, the Denver Broncos. If New England wants to go make the big trade for him, go for it. That means they think they're really close. I don't know how close they are. I don't know if they make it back to the AFC Championship again.
Yeah, I got to believe there's more competition in the AFC this year. It was a down year. And the Patriots benefited from that, and they benefited from Jarrett Stidham being that quarterback in Denver, and the inclement weather that affected the second half in that game. If they want to compete with the Chiefs, who let's see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen with Travis Kelce. They got to make a decision on that pretty soon if he's going to come back or not. The Baltimore Ravens, I got to believe, will retool this offseason and give Lamar Jackson a new contract. The Buffalo Bills have to get more wide receiver help. So if you want to stand in the running with those teams, the AFC, and get that title again of the conference champions, then you do need to go out and get AJ Brown if you think that he wants to do that. And I think he does. What would piss me off as an Eagles fan right now is all the flirting going on with AJ Brown and Mike Vrabel, and we know that he loves him. Initially, he did not like him when he was with the Tennessee Titans, Rocket New Era. And he would write in his journal, I hate Vrabel. And then he learned to love the guy and respected him. And I heard that interview he did with Julian Edelman on the Games with Names podcast, whatever it is. Or there's also Dudes on Dudes podcast he does with Gronk.
Yeah, Dudes on Dudes.
Dudes on Dudes. Interesting name. It's funny, though. There's a moment, though, where he gets a Julian Edelman number 11 jersey. And I'm like, if I was an Eagles fan, I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, bro? Like, we all know what you're doing. Like, he's wearing number 11. That's his jersey. I know Saquon Barkley went on NFL Live the next day, and he's like, he's just joking around. He's trolling. But I don't think he is. I think he wants to go to New England. If he had his choice, he probably would leave the Patriots and go play with Drake May. If I'm A.J. Brown, I want to go to Buffalo. Or, Denver. I'd rather actually play with Drake May over Bo Nix, but I'd rather play with Sean Payton than Mike Vrabel, but he loves Mike Vrabel. So that may be the reason why he would go to New England at this point. And they're a good team. But, yeah, if I'm Philly, that's pissing me off. So I get it. A.J. Brown's still a really good player in this league, and that was my reaction after the playoff game against the 49ers, where I thought he just dogged it, dropping passes, yelling at Nick Sirianni. That's something that is, evident, too, is that he doesn't respect that guy. He doesn't respect Jalen Hurts. He doesn't respect Nick Sirianni. So he wants to play for a quarterback that he trusts and a coach that he trusts. And we'll see what happens here. If I had to guess right now, I think the Maxx Crosby trade does go down. I'm not so sure about A.J. Brown, where I think Howie Roseman has to be blown away. And I wonder if the Patriots, when it's all said and done, will be willing to make that offer. Because I don't think they're going to budge off of what they're looking for right now in a first round pick plus a second. Now, that's why I think if these deals go down, it's going to have to be this weekend or this week, where I think the Raiders will wait until the very last second when the new league year starts, or before the tampering period starts, where let us wait for the last desperate team. Same thing with the Eagles when it comes to A.J. Brown. So I think it's very similar situations.
And it all depends as well. How desperate are the Eagles? How desperate are the Eagles to get something back? And
they shouldn't have to be desperate, though.
No, they should.
I mean, desperate to trade him away or desperate to get something back? Yes, they should want something. Yes,
I'm saying desperate to trade him away. They should want something back, of course.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
How desperate are the Eagles? So that's going to dictate the range of what you can get, because that's going to set that bargaining range, those parameters there of whoever the parties are. All that being said, with A.J. Brown, I get it. He wants to move on. Howie Roseman, he's done, in my opinion, nothing but good things for the Eagles. I mean, he's been incredible. So it seems like
whatever in the league.
Yeah, it seems like whatever he does, he's able to get it done and make it good for his team. So I have full confidence in him. If you're an Eagles fan, though, you're like, what the hell? We're only a few years removed from a Super Bowl. Yeah. We have a pretty damn stacked team. Arguably have the best running back in the league. We got a great defense. We have awesome defensive. Well, we have a great defense on paper. We have good defensive linemen. And you're just wondering, what is the issue, AJ? But it seems to be that's the way it's going. So if anybody who could make a good deal out of this, even if the Eagles were dealing from a position with suboptimal leverage, it would be Howie Roseman. I will put one other thing out here real quick. We've been talking about these trades. We've been talking about Maxx Crosby. Now we're talking about AJ, right? We haven't talked about the Niners. When are the Niners going to step up? And take a big swing. Like, I know they got McCaffrey. I love that move. The Niners, I would say, are closer to being a great team than other teams are, yet they're not talked about in a lot of these discussions.
Well, my question to you, Alon, is do they have the capabilities of making a move this offseason where they can be on the same level? I know fans are going to freak out about this, but they had a 12-5 season a year ago, and they exceeded expectations. If you ask John Lynch, if you ask Kyle Shanahan, they did not anticipate this season going the way it did. And that's a testament to the players they acquired as far as the draft and the coaching job that Kyle Shanahan has done. But they are not on the same level as the Seahawks and Rams right now. They're just not. Look at those two teams, the NFC Championship game. That was the Super Bowl, in my opinion. The Seahawks build that defense, and the Rams are building a juggernaut on offense right now, and now they got a big-time cornerback to help them out in their secondary. What can the 49ers do that can keep them on the same level as those guys? I don't know if they can, because Juwan Jennings is going to leave in free agency. It makes no sense for them to bring him back because it doesn't make them explosive as an offense. Juwan, great blocker. And no, he's a pretty damn good receiver too. But he should be a wide receiver 3, honestly. He can't be your number 1. And, we talked about it on the radio all week. If the money was all the same, Albert Breer's saying that he should get something around 15 a year. And that's lower than what he was anticipating because last offseason, or training camp, I should say, he was looking to get 20 to 25 million. And I don't think the Niners would touch that at this point. I think he's destined to go to Tennessee and play with Robert Saleh. He's from Tennessee. So that makes sense to me. And that rhymes. But I think that, I don't think it makes sense to bring back Juwan Jennings at this point. And I'd also say, I know Larry Krueger threw this out there. John Lynch in a combine presser said that we need to get more from the wide receivers, guys that could come back on the team. I think he kind of misspoke there. I think he's talking about guys that are currently on the roster, not guys that left, like Deebo Samuel. Samuel doesn't help you out either. You want Jordan Watkins to step up. You want Jacob Cowing to step up. But they need to get dynamic playmakers. I know we laugh. JD was laughing at me all week when I said they need to get a big-time deep threat. And they never draft that guy, Derek. Well, they need to. If you want to compete with the Seahawks, if you want to get your own Jackson Smith and Jigba, you need to go get a deep threat. Is that guy Mike Evans? He put out his criteria of what he's looking for in a team. He wants a guy quarterback and all the typical shit a wide receiver looks for. He wants a good quarterback, wants a good offensive play caller, wants the opportunity of high volume of catches. That's the one thing where I'm like, I don't know if he's going to get that with the Niners because Mike Evans would be wide receiver 1. No doubt about that. But in this offense, we know that Christian McCaffrey's the featured guy. And sometimes you're going to get the ball and sometimes you're not. That's why A.J. Brown doesn't work with the Niners. And that's why I wonder if Mike Evans would look at what's available in free agency and think, you know what? I know I'm getting the ball with Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean, that I could go on a dissertation level rant regarding Mike Shanahan style offenses here. And, Kyle Shanahan. I said Mike, but it's all the same tree, whether it's Kubiak, Shanahan, any of these guys. Look, you're not going to get force fed the ball as a wide receiver. You're just not. And if you're a true alpha number 1, like Mike Evans has proven he is, that's why he's going to go to the Hall of Fame. Sure. Could he win in San Francisco? Of course he could, but he's not going to get force fed the ball. Now, if you're more of a gadget wide receiver, a guy who can do multiple things, you might get force-fed the ball, but you might end up like Deebo Samuel, where a lot of those touches are going to be out of the backfield or on sweeps, right. And then you're going to be bitching and moaning and complaining about, man, I'm getting hammered in the hole. I'm getting hit on this play. I want to go play wide receiver, not running back. So I understand all that, and I get that's why A.J. Brown, a guy like him, doesn't make sense on the Niners. But back to the John Lynch comment about needing more guys in the room to – needing more production out of them. I agree. And I think everybody agrees. I think they do need someone explosive, Derek. And there's some guys in this draft who could come out and help them, but I will go back to this. And I'm sorry, Niner fans, I'm not trying to say this, kick you while you're down after another good season that gets derailed by injuries, but y'all drafted Ricky Pearsall in the same conference, by the way, SEC. Y'all drafted Ricky Pearsall over Ladd McConkey. And anybody who watched college football knew Ladd McConkey was that dude, and Ricky Pearsall was a potential guy out of Florida. So that's part of the problem that's happening in this Kyle Shanahan offense in San Francisco. You're drafting guys who, oh, this might fit nice in my offense, or I can make this guy something, whatever the case is. Sometimes you just need to go draft those dudes, regardless of whether they actually fit your scheme or not. I feel like the Niners need to go out, and what you're saying, JD maybe was laughing about it, but maybe you need to go out and get a speed demon, a guy who can stretch the field, even though that is not the name of the game for this offense. Maybe you need to go do those things. So if you don't do those things, you're going to be the same predictable team over and over again.
I'm with you. And I think that not that Ricky Pearsall was a reach, because a lot of people liked him. And if the Niners waited, they weren't going to get him back in the second round. But he's not the typical wide receiver you draft in the first round. He is a man beater. He's the reason they drafted him. I keep saying this over and over again ad nauseum, is because Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk could not get open in the Super Bowl. And that's what Kyle Shanahan wants. A high volume wide receiver that can pick up first downs, really, a chain mover. He's not going to be a touchdown machine. He's not going to be a wide receiver one, really. Like in that offense last year, yes. But right now, if they want to upgrade and be this explosive offense, and again, they put up a ton of points down the stretch, and it was amazing what they were able to accomplish with that defense. But if they want to compete with the likes of the Seahawks, then they need to get a game changer. And who's that guy right now as a wide receiver? I really don't know. I think Alec Pierce has potential to be a big play guy. And is he worth what he's going to get on the open market right now, which could be something of $28 to $30 million a year? I think it's a little much, but I think he'd be perfect for the Niners offense. So that's a guy I would look at. And as far as other needs they have, some names that have been thrown out there, courtesy of Jeremy Fowler and Dan Graziano, Romeo Doubs. I like Romeo Doubs, but not in the 49ers offense as a true number one. He's a number two. He was one of the more reliable wide receivers with the Green Bay Packers, got injured a lot. He got a ton of concussions, and that's why he wears the Great Kazoo Guardian cap. But this past year, he had a lot of drops. He had that terrible, muffed onside kick that resulted in the loss to the Chicago Bears in the regular season. He gets separation, but he's not the type of guy that they're looking for that's been different in recent years. So I would not go after Romeo Doubs. Jalen Naylor is more of an explosive player. His name has been linked to the Niners. You don't have to give him a big-time contract either. So I'm more inclined to go with that guy. But I would go with Alec Pierce. If you're asking me, who's the best option for the 49ers in free agency when it comes to wide receivers, I think that name is Alec Pierce. Now, could the Colts make a last-ditch effort to get him in a contract before he hits free agency? Yes, but that would be a bad move by Alec Pierce at this point, because Daniel Jones got the transition tag. That's where the Colts' priorities are. So this guy's going to hit free agency, and I wonder if the Colts will be able to sign him back.
What about Tyreek Hill?
He's a big question mark this year, where I don't know if he's healthy enough.
Do you think he goes back to the Chiefs? Because I kind of have a feeling he might just want to go back
I think that's the most obvious thing, where he probably won't sign with the team for the majority of the offseason, and then training camp rolls around and we see, right before that happens in July, he's healthy, he's good to go, and the Chiefs just bring him back, and that's what he wants.
If he's healthy, and that's a big if, right? He could fit in nicely with the Niners. He really could, because he can fill multiple roles. He can run those nice little drags down underneath. He can be a little outlet sometimes for Brock Purdy. He can also stretch the field deep. But no, you're right. If he's healthy, I don't know. I feel like Kyle Shanahan could use him very well in an offense. But yeah, I'd rather have Pierce. I'd rather have Pierce. I'd rather have Mike Evans. There's a lot of guys I'd rather have. But he might be a guy who's available where you just say, hey, let's kick the tires on this guy. And maybe you don't have to pay him very much if he's willing to come to San Francisco.
Yeah, I mean, that's a cheaper option, but if he's a shell of his former self, then that's not something you should rely on. That's a move that the Chiefs can make. They can afford to make that move when they're doing other things. And I don't know if they're really trying to win this upcoming season, but that's something that they can do where, they can go back not to being this team. Like, it's going to be interesting to see what happens when they do the quarterback position. Like, I think that's a perfect move for Tua. Like, I keep bringing that up, and people are bringing up the Jets with Tua, or I don't really know what's going on with Tua, but that seems like a match made in heaven to me, where he's not great in the cold, but Tua's going to start games in September for the Chiefs and then learn how to be a pro behind Patrick Mahomes. That's what I would do. And can they be competitive enough? Is it enough where Travis Kelce comes back for a cheaper deal? I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if they make some moves where, they not the same juggernaut that they were in the past, but they're able to, kind of retool this offseason and be like a 9-8 team or 10-7 and somehow sneak into the playoffs. So, and then you can afford. We'll see what happens with Rashid Rice, because there's a lot of allegations going on with him right now where I don't know if he's a good guy either. Yeah. But Tyreek Hill, what's up?
Speedster, though.
Speedster on many levels. But we'll see what happens with Tyreek Hill this offseason, but I think there's better options for the 49ers. As far as the offensive line, and Rocco Nuera brought this up in the chat, trying to find his tweet here where he was complaining about, can we finally find a replacement for Trent? Here we go. Rocco Nuera says, can we draft Trent's replacement, please? I'm over these holdouts. I'm with you. I get it. Adam Schefter had that report where he has no guaranteed money for this upcoming year, and he wants to rework his deal. Trent is a good businessman. Mm-hmm. He's a great offensive lineman, maybe a better businessman, where he does this every other year with the 49ers. And I got to believe that they figure this out sooner than later, but there is that threat that Adam Schefter put out where if the Niners and Trent Williams don't come to a deal, then they could just cut him. And I don't think the Niners are in the business or can afford to do that at this point, because who are their other options? They have to pay him. But at 38 years old and him costing you this amount of money, you should look for his replacement. I know some people that I ask about this are like, well, Derek, how are they going to do that? If you want to find Trent Williams' replacement, you need like a top 10 pick. Not necessarily. I don't know if you probably know this better than me, Alon, but people were blown away with some of these offensive linemen in the combine. So could it be where you can find a guy like that in the second round? I don't know. But I saw this on Twitter today, and I'm not saying you should do this, but it kind of made me like, that is interesting. The Houston Texans made some questionable moves this week. They traded for David Montgomery, but they did trade away two of their offensive linemen, some of their better offensive linemen, where that's not a really strong unit on their team. They traded away Titus Howard to the Cleveland Browns and Juice Scruggs as part of the David Montgomery trade, which included Montgomery for a fourth, a seven, and offensive lineman. That's a haul for a running back. I was surprised by that one. But obviously, DeMeco Ryans knows Trent Williams from not coaching him. He was on the defensive side of the football, but just being on that staff. Could you see the Texans trading a second-round pick for Trent Williams? And are the Niners in a position to do that? I would say no, but that is intriguing.
I don't think the Texans will do it, right? Because you're already...
I think the Texans would do it in a heartbeat. I think the Niners would be like, well, who's fucking playing left tackle for us?
That's true, too. Yeah, the Niners might have something to say about it. Regarding the David Montgomery trade, amazing to me that he got the haul that he did, because
that was surprising.
He's a duo back, right? He's back there with what do they call him, Knuckles out there in Detroit, and he's got Sonic, and that's Jahmyr Gibbs. Yeah. So you've given up assets for a duo back. If you're the Texans, whatever, good for you. And they need offensive line help, but I want to go back to the draft here. I think the Niners do have opportunities. They don't have to have a top 10 pick to find that anchor right, to replace Trent Williams. There's a lot of good offensive tackles. I'm looking at the list right now, but I was like, okay, I'm going to see Caden Proctor from Alabama. I'm going to see Monroe Freeling. I mean, these are guys who could be in the first round or early second round. You have the tackle out of Penn State. You got Spencer Fano, who's going to go very high out of Utah. But there's a lot of guys besides Maui Goa and, the guys that we think about who played deep into the college football playoff. Caleb Lomu, there's another one. All these guys are 6'6", 6'7", 330 to 355 pound guys. I think you can find that anchor. And if I'm the Niners, you should start drafting that position because, like you said, Derek, how often do you want to keep playing this carousel merry-go-round game with Trent Williams or someone like him every single 2 years where it's like, okay, what's the deal now, Trent? Are we going to have to re-sign you for this? Are we going to have to do that? No, go get a rookie, whether you're drafting in the first or the second, at least you have him under contract control for 3 to 5 years, depending on where you draft him.
Yeah, I think it needs to be a priority this offseason. I think that you should do that more with the draft if you can afford to do that early on, where you clear up the holes that, as far as the glaring needs that you see this offseason when it comes to wide receiver, or replacing George Kittle for a good deal of time, or if you're comfortable with Jake Tonjes, but they do need help on the defensive line. I keep throwing this name out, Alon, for the 49ers, and I haven't seen anything happening with him. But we talked about the Chiefs, and they made a big-time move trading away a guy today, Trent McDuffie. Do you think Chris Jones is an option as far as a trade? And he's due to make about $34 million this year, or $31 million. And they still need to make some moves to get some guys off the books when it comes to the salary cap. Could the 49ers afford to trade for Chris Jones, take on all of his salary? But when you do a move like that, you don't need to give up a high draft pick. Could you get Chris Jones for a third or a fourth and have him on your roster at $31 million a year? And if he doesn't pan out, he's still a pretty good player, declining as a player, but got 7 sacks a year ago. And if he's not cutting it, you can cut him off the roster. The dead cap hits only $19 million next year.
He's a championship piece. So if you're doing that, what you're setting up for, like you're talking about, Derek, is you trade for him, a mid-round pick for him, and then you go draft a tackle with your second or first, or whatever your earlier pick is. Chris Jones, I love the guy. He's a great player. He's a championship piece. That's a move that, to me, signals that you think you're ready to go win a championship. I think his maximum value is when you're a team that thinks you're right there on the cusp, and he's the guy to get you over. If we were talking about basketball, I think Draymond Green is that kind of guy. I think he only fits on a team that is ready to go win a championship now. Yep. Chris Jones, same exact deal. I don't know. That's fascinating. I don't know if the Niners are willing to take on I think that they believe they need to get younger. So I don't know if they think they can take on another older player. That's the big problem with Chris Jones, even though it's on defense, not on offense.
John Middlecoff said the same thing to me when I brought that up when he joined me. He was like, I like the idea, Derek, but I don't know if the Niners are going to do that. And I'm like, yeah, I hear you on that one. As far as Mac Jones, I'm surprised that the latest is there is not a robust market for him, where as soon as he was done starting games, Ian Rappaport, Tom Pelissero, all these guys were like, you better be prepared for teams to be, calling for Mac Jones services because he put on a show in the 8 games that he played this season. And I thought the likes of the Miami Dolphins, even inside their own division, the Arizona Cardinals, the Minnesota Vikings, the Atlanta Falcons, all these teams would be interested in Mac Jones. And I get it. Those teams are not in a position to be banging down the door and be like, we want Mac Jones, because Atlanta doesn't have a ton of draft capital. They traded away they traded away a pick to get James Pierce. The Arizona Cardinals, it sounds like, I know Rocky New Era says in the chat here, 2 to the Cardinals. I don't see that happening. I think that right now it looks like it's going to be Malik Willis. The familiarity that Malik has from one LaFleur brother to another, it sounds like that's going to happen. And I don't think that Kyle wants to trade him inside their own division. And with the Miami Dolphins, they can't afford to get Malik Willis. They have multiple third-round picks, I believe. So I think they can make a move for Mac Jones. But it sounds like most teams are like, oh, we'll wait on that one, or we're not going to do it at all. And I get that because it's easier to go get a Malik Willis. It's easier to go get Kyler Murray that's available. It's easier to go get a Tua. But I wouldn't close the door on that just because it doesn't happen right away. I think there's going to be injuries. I think there's going to be, there always happens in training camp. It sounds like the 49ers are offering, are asking for an arm and a leg when it comes to Mac Jones. They want a first-round pick in return for him. That's insane. But I do get where we're not going to trade him away for nothing. I want to keep him on the roster because we do need a backup quarterback. I do also trust that Kyle Shanahan can find another good backup quarterback, whether that's Zach Wilson or somebody else. So, or whether that's Curtis Rourke already on the roster where he was successful with Indiana with Kurt Signetti. So I'm surprised about that now because I figured Miami would be that team for Mac Jones. But just because we're hearing that teams are not interested in right now doesn't mean that won't happen.
The interest should be there. I just don't think the market's there for a first-round pick, obviously. I think maybe second or third is very doable. Minnesota is an interesting case because that kind of matches what Mac Jones, he would be a good fit there. But they got a problem where if they go get a guy who then ends up performing really well, hell, now you got two quarterbacks, one that the fan base was very stoked about, and now you're starting another guy. I mean, this is the same issue with they can't go out and maybe get like that. Geno Smith makes sense for the Vikings, believe it or not. And Derek Carr doesn't, because if Derek Carr is fully healthy, he might be better than, the young guy that they have from Michigan who could be starting there. So what I'm saying is Minnesota should be the obvious place to go, but Minnesota might not be willing to do that because it kind of paints them in a weird position. Miami would be fine. I could see him going down to Atlanta. I just don't, the market's not there for a first round pick. And I know the media was saying, oh, look, Mac Jones played really, really well. And yeah, the guy was a Pro Bowler in his rookie year with Josh McDaniels as his offensive coordinator in New England. This guy's a national championship winner. We know he can sling the rock. He's got a better deep ball than Brock Purdy. That's true. He's not as good of a quarterback as Brock Purdy. We also know that.
Yep.
I don't know if he's gonna get that first round pick back for him. I think third round.
No chance in hell that's it.
I think third round is realistic for Mac Jones.
But I think the 49ers would be like, well, we're going to get a third round pick anyway when he walks in free agency for the comp pick. So I don't know if they're going to be willing to do that. It's crazy to me, like how it's not crazy how they value a backup quarterback, but it's just like the narrative out there is like Brock Purdy's injury prone, and I don't believe in that. I don't think you should have the mentality, too, that you're not going to have Brock Purdy for a full 17 games. He needs to start all these games. Yes, he's had injuries in the past, but not where it's been he's missing significant time. And, yes, he had the turf toe. He had the one game where he missed against Green Bay, and then the season finale, but that was kind of like a preseason game against Arizona. So I trust that Kyle Shanahan can find somebody to fill in, but you shouldn't trade away Mac Jones for nothing. Minnesota doesn't make sense to me just because, well, you just said Alon. They don't want to bring in a guy that's basically like, if you trade for Mac Jones, you're probably reworking his contract. And that would just pretty much end things for J.J. McCarthy there. I think they still are holding out hope that he could be a player, even though that they fired their GM and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. I still think they were holding out hope because he did play good football down the stretch. He really did. My Atlanta doesn't make sense just because they don't have draft picks to trade away. And it sounds like Kevin Stefanski has cheaper options, maybe in Joe Flacco, until Michael Penix comes back. And I still think there's a chance that Kirk Cousins signs back because he knows Kevin Stefanski and knows that scheme. Miami makes the most sense. Bobby Slowick knows Kyle Shanahan. It'd be easy transition for him. And as far as other quarterbacks available, Kyler Murray should be the best quarterback available in free agency. We knew this was coming, but Adam Schefter and everybody had the report that when the new league year starts, they're going to cut Kyler Murray. And that ends a tumultuous time with the Arizona Cardinals. I'll get to that in a little bit here, but the team that keeps getting brought up is Minnesota. And you can play that as a straight up QB competition. You sign up for the vet minimum. That does not help J.J. McCarthy. I think what would make more sense where you're not killing the confidence of JJ McCarthy is signing a Geno Smith or
Mhm.
trading for a Derek Carr just for one season, because Derek Carr's not going to play that long. But if you sign Kyler Murray, then he could ball out, and then you're signing him to a long-term contract. And he probably would beat out J.J. McCarthy in a straight-up QB competition. And that's the guy that Justin Jefferson wants to play with over J.J. at this point. So that'd be very interesting. It sounds like that's what Kyler wants. But as far as the Arizona Cardinals moving on from him, what comes to mind to you, Alon, when you think of Kyler Murray as Arizona Cardinal?
Tumultuous, untenable. Those are
So
the two words.
nothing on the field. Like, that's the crazy thing.
I was at that game where he ran that 2-point conversion.
Yes.
That's
So
what I remember for him as a Cardinal player. But otherwise, tumultuous, untenable, plays too many video games, doesn't study the playbook.
Exactly. Like, when I think of Kyler Murray, I think of him at Oklahoma.
Mhm.
That's the height of Kyler Murray when, God, remember me and, my pops and Bonte talking about him all the time, because my dad was, that season when he was fired from the Raiders, he was doing a lot of
This Kyler Murray, he can really sling the rock.
well, at first he was like, I don't know about this guy. And then he called his first game of the season.
Yep.
And he was like, this guy's going to play in the NFL. He's not playing for the A's. And that was the whole thing we were talking about in the Bay Area. Is like, is he going to just, leave the A's hanging here, spurn them, and go play in the NFL? And people were like, he's not going to be a first overall pick. And sure enough, he was. Kingsbury was infatuated with him.
Mhm.
And that's what I remember about Kyler Murray. After that, I remember that, today I was doing shows with Ted Ramey on KMBR, and I totally forgot about how he did a whole interview with Dan Patrick where he came across smug.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Everything after that, the arguments he used to have with Cliff Kingsbury on the sideline. When I think of a play in particular, yes, that 2-point conversion against the Raiders, that was more the Raiders' defensive line just not getting to him. But it was impressive what Kyler Murray did. But when I think of Kyler Murray, this is sad. I'm thinking of that play he made against the Los Angeles Rams in the playoff game where he was running around in his own end zone, threw the ball up in the air, and it gets intercepted. I think about the study addendum where the Arizona Cardinals gave him a contract but told him he needs to study more and stop playing Call of Duty.
Yep.
That's what I think of with Kyler Murray. And I don't know if he's matured. I don't know if he's grown as a quarterback, because Monty Ossenfort, their GM, was asked straight up at the combine, have you had much conversations with Kyler Murray? Is there communication there? And he was like, yeah, we're trying to, I forget exactly what he said, but it's clear that he was kind of lying. And then Kyler's camp came out and said, we haven't talked to them in months. Why do you need to say that, though? Does that need to be out there? So I think Kyler, honestly, what he should do, if Minnesota's offering you the starting gig or a competition with J.J. McCarthy, go for it. That's a loaded team. But what would be the smart move? He should go back on Matthew Stafford. He should learn how to be a pro. Same thing with Tua. If I'm saying Tua should be a backup with Patrick Mahomes, Cliff Kingsbury's in L.A., and I don't know what their relationship is like anymore. But if I'm Kyler, the smartest move, and this is going for the long haul here, where you're hoping to be the successor to Matthew Stafford once he retires, I'm backing up Matthew Stafford.
Yeah. What's so funny is that you talked about LA, because I was thinking while you were talking, I was thinking the same thing in my head. I was like, man, he should, if he can't get a good starting gig like Minnesota, he'll win the job, and that's a good team, plug and play for him, assuming that he plays well. Right. But let's take that off the table. LA would be the perfect place. Stays in division.
Yep.
He's with a coach. Depends on what the relationship is with Cliff.
Yeah.
But he's with a coach who he knows, and he gets to go learn from a Hall of Famer. I think we can say that. Matt Stafford will be a Hall of Fame.
Hands down he is.
Yeah, hands down. He'll be a Hall of Fame quarterback for all those years in Detroit and then the ring in LA. So, yeah, he gets to learn, and then maybe he can be the heir apparent. And that actually fixes a hole that the Rams have, too. They don't have to go get like a Ty Simpson type guy in the draft, or they don't have to make moves like that, right? And then Ty Simpson ends up being a failed Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback, maybe. But anyway, it makes sense for Kyler Murray. I don't know if he's going to do that, but what are his options? If he doesn't get the great starting job in a place like Minnesota, Do you want to go to a bottom feeder team? Do you want to do what Russell Wilson did after leaving Denver? Do you want to be one of those guys? Of course not. You're Kyler Murray. You're super talented. You don't want to just go plug a hole on a team and try to be the savior for a really bad team. Better
Jets,
to go.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So better to go to a team that New Orleans, places like that. Better to go to a team that you can sit behind for a year and kind of hang out and rehabilitate a little bit.
I thought Cleveland would be a good spot for him, the scheme and everything with Todd Monken, but it sounds like they want one last year with Deshaun Watson. So we'll see if he's healthy. But yeah, I think Kyler Murray in LA with the Rams makes a ton of sense. Probably Minnesota happens. Again, I keep getting you Tua with the Chiefs. That's what I would do. As far as other moves that went down, we had the deadline for the tag. I mentioned Daniel Jones. Trey Hendrickson did not get the tag, so he finally gets to leave the Cincinnati Bengals. And you got to believe a missed opportunity for them when it came to the trade deadline. Why didn't they move him? Makes no sense whatsoever. But he's going to move in free agency, and it sounds like the Buccaneers are probably the leading favorite for him to sign with them because they do need pass rush help. Breece Hall, unfortunately, got tagged, and I want to see him go to a different team, but he's stuck with the Jets. That's a shitty situation. I don't know why, he's a really good player, but at $14 million, when you're tagging him, I mean, you can trade him. You could definitely trade him, but if I was Breece Hall, I would not want to stay with the Jets. And Kenneth Walker will not be franchise tagged, or he wasn't. So it sounds like the Seahawks are not going to be able to get him back. And he's one of the rare guys that won Super Bowl MVP and may sign with a different team. Sounds like the Giants or the Broncos want him really badly. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, that's all I got as far as NFL news. Anything else, Alon, that's on your mind?
I don't know why Trey didn't get franchise tag. Makes no sense to me. The only reason that you wouldn't get something back for him in any capacity is because you're going to franchise tag him. So then you're not. He's just going to walk away for free. Makes no sense. I don't understand what Cincinnati's doing at all.
Yeah, no, that seems like a missed opportunity. And the way that organization is run, like a lot of people kind of do the NBA thing with Joe Burrow, where it's like if he's upset, they're going to trade him. No chance in hell. Mike Brown and the Bengals run a different game than everybody else. They don't give a fuck if someone is unhappy. Trey Hendrickson was very unhappy. T. Higgins, unhappy. Carson Palmer was unhappy, and they told him retire. It wasn't until Hugh Jackson called up and say, hey, Jason Campbell broke his collarbone. I'll give you 2 first-round picks. That's what made them move him in the end. Joe Burrow would have to retire for multiple years for them to trade him away. That's what I think.
No, they don't give a shit. They clearly don't. And Joe Burrow's stuck there for better or for worse for him. And we know what Joe Burrow can do. I don't know what Cincinnati's doing. All in all, I think NFL offseason just heating up. Just last thing on the NFL here. I think the draft's going to be really good. I think the Niners got to get younger. That's what I would say. But for everybody still in the chat. Also, I saw in the chat hot sauce for my internet last week.
Yeah, AJ Cruz suggested that.
Not today, AJ. Maybe Sunday. But
I
will.
That's a tease.
Yeah, good professional tease there. I will say this: for everybody that's sick of football, we got the World Baseball Classic coming up. We got baseball, baby.
I was just about to ask you that, and I know everybody was glued to the radio the other day when KMBR took Team USA taking on the Giants. What a weird situation that is. Yeah, you know what? What do you expect, though? It's a fucking all-star team.
Yeah.
And it's good preparation against the Dodgers because that's basically what they are, but how could you gauge Adrian Hauser or Blade Tidwell against those guys? It's a fucking joke. Not to mention, we were waiting. So we took that broadcast, Alon, and me and Kerry Crowley were supposed to go on after that. And then during the broadcast, John Miller goes, so we got word today that Team USA wants to play 10 innings today, maybe 11. And I was like, what? No one told us that. And they weren't going to take it on the broadcast, even though the game was still going on. They did a post-game show. But that was so weird. I've never seen anything like that where they wanted to use all their guys, all their arms, let alone the Giants loaned Team USA prospects to play in that game. Again, that's just so weird to me. Team USA tune-up games are like whose lines anyway. The points don't matter. They make up the fucking rules. So that was weird. But yeah, Paul Skeens out there, and Logan Webb's going to pitch the first game for Team USA on Friday against Brazil.
It's just unfair. You got Skeens, you got Scooble. I mean, it's not fair at all. It's funny. They had the tune-up game against the Giants. I know they also played one against the Colorado Rockies. And one of my favorite tweets was, I'm sure you saw this, Derek, and everyone in the chat as well. It was Team USA, and it was a picture of Aaron Judge, and it says, playing the Colorado Rockies in an exhibition game. It said, what did it say? A super team versus the power of friendship. And I was just like, they can't explain it any better. And that's what they did to the Giants. I mean, it was belt to ass, 15-1 or whatever it was. I mean, but what do you expect? What are you expecting?
Exactly,
of course they're going to win like that.
Yeah, like it's fun. It was great to see like Rich Aurelia hang out with Aaron Judge's childhood idol, and Rich Aurelia, and people make fun of that sometimes. But yeah, and like Bryce Harper hanging out with the Giants, Logan Webb talking shit to his Giants teammates. That's fun for the interactions. But as far as like a game,
it's not a game.
Yeah, like Otis Bird in the chat here says like, oh, that was rough, 15-1. Ugh, I get it, but like that shouldn't mean anything for the Giants. That should not mean a goddamn thing. Who cares? It was basically name a powerhouse in college football playing opening weekend and doing belt to ass on that team for the money of it. Like it was good exposure for Tony Vitello for a ESPN Boog Shambi broadcast, but let's not act like that means anything for the Giants in the grand scheme of things.
I'm so stoked for the Giants this season because you get the coach.
Are you really?
I think they got a good young coach. It depends how well he relates to players on the big stage. We've talked about this in the past, where they're going to need to eventually get younger guys for him. But I'm interested to see what they do because the Bob Melvin experience was not great. But that being said, for everybody who was like, "Oh, 15-1, it was so rough," I'm with you, Derek. This means nothing. I mean, you were playing against if it was Space Jam, it was the Monstars against I don't know Bill Murray and whoever plays for the Looney Tunes before they get all good at basketball. Like it was not good. It was not a good look, but yeah. Hey, they did the same thing to the Rock. It doesn't matter, but I'm excited to see USA easily make it out of group play. Probably going to end up with USA, Japan again. I think
that'd be exciting.
Yeah, it would be. And it would be great to get one back against them after, Shohei Ohtani struck out Mike Trout, who's not playing on Team USA this year back in 2023. And I think I saw Rockin say Team Mexico, Team MX. So I'm going to take that as Team Mexico. Hey, let's see what Randy Arozarena can do because he was awesome for Team Mexico last time around. But I don't know. I'm excited for the World Baseball Classic. And Derek, I want to bring this up. USA has a chance because we won the gold medal against Canada in hockey.
Yep.
Be big. First time in like 50 years, 46
men
years.
and women. Yep.
Men, of course, the men and I'm not going to pull a Donald Trump there. I'm not going to do it. Don't understand any of that. But yeah, men and women.
Well, sorry, he did not acknowledge the women.
He had a call in the locker room where he said, "And guys, I have to invite the women to the State of the Union as well because if I don't, I'll get impeached." And all the guys laughed about it, and everyone was like, "What the hell is this?"
That's a lame line. That's a lame line.
It didn't make any sense. It didn't add anything.
Right.
So anyway, yeah, men and women both win a gold, but the men winning for the first time in 46 years, crazy, right?
Yeah. No, awesome.
WBC, USA has a chance to win.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. We got the World Cup coming up. USA is not going to win the World Cup. But if they do, Derek, be the single greatest year in American sports history. We'd have a WBC.
Yeah.
We'd have a gold medal in hockey, and we'd have our first ever World Cup. It's not going to happen, but it's still a pretty darn good year because I think Team USA is going to win the WBC.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, Team USA winning in hockey, that was amazing. And I don't know if I told you this, Alana. I got some shit here in the Bay Area because I was just having fun on the radio because Macklin Celebrini plays for Team Canada. And we were joking around being like, well, do you root for Macklin Celebrini or Team USA? And I was like, oh, Macklin Celebrini, of course. And people on the text line thought I was being serious. I got to see. Like, I don't know. Like, Team USA for the WBC is loaded. But it wasn't enough last time. Shohei Ohtani, an all-time moment, striking out Mike Trout. I don't know. It would be awesome though. But yeah, as you just said, Alon, they're not going to win in the World Cup. So it's a nice story, but that's not going to happen.
No, but hey, 2 out of 3 is not bad, and I think we're going to get 2 out of 3.
2 out of 3 ain't bad. Who said that at one point? Meatloaf. That's a song, I believe. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Something like that.
You know, big Meatloaf fan, big Dinosaur Jr. fan. Yeah.
Oh, those are some
deep cuts.
Are they similar?
No.
Just naming random musicians.
Just
I like that.
Naming random bands that I don't listen to any of their songs.
Nice. AJ Cruz here. AJ Cruz says, oh, yeah, he's making fun of the way I speak. Quit beating around the bush. Where's my pop culture catch-up, Derek? We're going to do that on Sunday. So we usually do pop culture catch-up on Sundays. So we'll do that with Alon. We'll do a Jackass of the Week. And we're going to do the show on Sunday at 5 o'clock. Because Alon's doing some games on Sunday afternoon. And I remember last year around this time, me and Steven did a show early in the morning around 11 o'clock. And then later that day, DK Metcalf got traded to the Steelers. Devontae Adams signed with the Rams. Josh Allen got a new contract. So there's a lot of smoke right now with Maxx Crosby. And if a trade goes down, wouldn't be the least bit surprised if it happens this weekend right before free agency starts. Same thing with A.J. Brown. So we will be back on Monday. On Sunday. Well, here's the schedule. We'll be doing a show on Sunday at 5 o'clock. Alon, are you down to do a show on Monday to react to the first day of free agency, or are you going to be busy that day?
Monday, I cannot. I have
fair enough.
Conference I'm going to Monday evening.
Fair enough. Then I may do that solo dolo, or I may have a guest join me. Yeah, you guys are going to laugh, especially the key people that pay attention to KMBR. Jack Loader has been hounding me to give him a chance to co-host Just Your Opinion, man. So maybe Jack Loader on Monday, but I got to be really desperate for that to happen. We'll go through everything with NFL free agency next week, but we're going to start on Sunday. There might be some news that breaks the next couple of days here, so we'll get ready for that. And if there's anything new that happens before Sunday, we may pop on before that. I'll hit you up and see if the timing works out. But yeah, the plan right now is to return on Sunday at 5 o'clock. So yeah, Alon, your internet looks fantastic. Thank you for fixing that, man, and looking forward to you joining me for the new edition of Just Your Opinion, man. And just want to let you guys know that I've been talking with Walter Icabal-Seta, who does Passion for the Pastime. We're going to try to do the same thing we did a year ago, where we'll do a Just Your Pastime, man. We'll get things ready for Giants baseball with that. So that probably goes down the Tuesday before the season starts, where they open the season up against the New York Yankees. So we'll keep you posted on that one. And yeah, we're going to do a lot of shows next week with a lot of reaction to the fuckery, as we call it, AJ Cruz. I don't care what you call it, but I'm calling it that. All right? So anything else, Alon?
Yeah, so we didn't get to do a pop culture because we're going to do it on Sunday. But I will say this. I got to – my mom and sister are out of town, so I went over to my dad's place last night just to hang out with him because he was – well, they left, and so he's by himself being a bachelor. And I was like, hey, want to watch a movie? So he threw on The Working Man with Jason Statham, and I believe it was written by Sylvester Stallone. It's not a great movie, but it was pretty badass. It's not as good as The Beekeeper, but I recommend everybody in the chat go watch The Working Man. It's free on Amazon Prime.
I definitely need to check out The Beekeeper. I've heard that's an awesome movie.
Beekeeper's awesome. Working Man is like low-budget John Wick.
Okay, you know what? I'll do a quick pop culture catch-up. I watched what movies did I watch over the weekend last weekend? I watched 2. I watched Caught Stealing, which was the movie.
The baseball movie?
The baseball movie with Austin Butler. He plays, people that check it out like this, he plays a diehard Giants fan. I got to recommend this movie to Copes because this is him. Like, he's so focused on the Giants. When he calls his mom, he ends every conversation with "Go Giants." He's a baseball flameout that lives in New York, but he's from the Bay Area. He's a diehard Giants fan. The guy that wrote the movie and wrote the book is from Oakland, but it's all based on the Giants. And it's this weird thing where his neighbor leaves for the weekend. He watches his cat, but his cat's got some key that leads to drug money, and he's got weird people showing up at his house.
I saw the previews for. I wanted to see this in theaters. This movie looked actually really good.
It's not bad. It's Darren Aronofsky is the director, and I recommend it. It's weird. It's kind of like a Guy Ritchie movie. If you like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch, it's kind of like in that vein, with a baseball element to it and gangsters. So it was fun. I also watched The Rip with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, the Netflix movie. It's a Netflix movie.
Is that the one where they're cops and then
Yes.
they end up like? Okay, I saw the preview for that. That
Yeah,
looks kind of cool too.
They go to a stash house. They find some money. Some dirty cops are looking for it. Are they dirty cops themselves? It was a movie that has big names attached to it, but it's not a movie that you want to see in theaters. So it was a Netflix movie, yeah.
Okay. Well, you know what? I'll probably check that out tonight then because I got nothing else to do. So I'll watch that because you're recommending it so highly.
Yeah, if between the two, I would go caught stealing. That was more entertaining.
It's caught stealing because it's the Giants. Is it as good as The Fan? We'll talk about Giants movie. The Fan.
That's high praise. God, The Fan with Wesley Snipes and Robert De Niro. And my pops was supposed to be in that movie as the broadcaster. It's been a minute since I've seen The Fan. The Fan's more memorable.
Yeah.
But as good, maybe not.
Okay. All right. Yeah, there's The Fan. Hey, your dad was in Moneyball.
He was in Moneyball.
And then another one of my favorite, not sports movies, but a sports scene is The Last Boy Scout, because we got the opening scene there.
That's right, yeah. With the guy that, football, where he shoots his teammates while he's running.
Pulls out a gun while he's running the ball.
So fucking weird. While we're on the subject, before we get out of here, I want to thank everybody that's been reaching out to me. My father did have his bone marrow surgery today, and once I get the update on that, I'll let you guys know. But yeah, thank you guys for reaching out about that. My Aunt Judy stepped up big time in helping out my father with that. She was a perfect match. She got her blood transfusions. Took her a long time the other day. I think it's like a 10-hour process. So once I get more information about that, I'll let you guys know. But thank you for everybody reaching out about my father. And before you get out of here, I just want to say rest in peace to Lou Holtz, who passed away today. And before my time with him coaching Notre Dame football, but the way he spoke, with a lisp, so funny. But I remember him on ESPN, being an analyst for college football. Who was the other guy with him? The guy with
Mark May, the offensive
Mark
lineman
May,
who played for Pitt. They would do that court scene thing with Reese Davis as the judge.
Yeah, exactly. So rest in peace to Lou Holtz. Really good Notre Dame head coach, terrible Jets head coach, but rest in peace to him.
Yeah, no, R.I.P. Lou Holtz. I was going to miss this voice on ESPN now because everything's so. Yeah, no, we're not going to ever get that again. Instead, we got Booger McFarland.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
That can be pretty fun. But R.I.P. Lou Holtz. And it's great news about your dad as well, Derek. So that's awesome. Love Greg, of course. And just hope he keeps getting better because he's fighting this thing really, really well.
I appreciate that, man. So thank you guys, and we'll be back on Sunday. Everybody in the chat, thanks to Otis Burgers The Word. Thanks to AJ Cruz. Thanks to Rockin' New Era. Thanks to it's the same guys for a while here.
Mac was in there.
Mac Van. I saw some Pat H. We get any Ernie One tonight? I don't think we saw. I think we saw Itaki Skills. We saw Skills. I think we saw Chewy Raiders. I forget his name. He doesn't pop up all the time, but I think it's Chewy Raiders coverage. I think this is Tacky, this weird person that keeps popping up. Tribe 69 dudes. Derek Papa makes me creamy. Always says that. Don Peralta, what's up, man? Thank you for the loving tributes and the artwork you've done for my father. Thank you for doing that, man. Chewy Raiders coverage. Thank you for popping in the chat. There was Ernie One, and I believe that is it. All right, everybody. We will see you guys on Sunday at 5:00. Alon, say what you always say going forward, my friend.
Hey, you might think that USA is not going to win the World Cup, Derek, but that's just your opinion, man.